my name is Becc Sahasrara, and I'm a feminine ascension mentor, a spiritual speaker, and a psychic channel. Welcome to this episode of the Becc Sahasrara Podcast. Today I want to talk to you about the medicine called Ayahuasca. I feel guided to talk to you about this because I had a very powerful medicine experience a little while ago, and it's been integrating, and with that integration has come some really beautiful lessons and journeying around the embodiment of the feminine and what it means to be free, and lots of things like this that ended up in me kind of going through a very big initiation into the light feminine. And whether you are a man or a woman, I think that my ayahuasca experience will be very powerful for you to receive and listen to. So, firstly though, a little disclaimer, which is that I am in no way encouraging you to go off and do plant medicines, nor am I warning you against it. This is just my personal experience. And bear in mind that everybody has different experiences, and even the individual, like the next time I do it, may be completely different than this experience that I had, because the medicine really just takes you where you're meant to be. So I want to begin by speaking about how I didn't think I was a person who was ever going to do plant medicines. I have always been very psychic and open in that way. And so on one level, I thought it could be very ungrounding for me to go off and exacerbate all of my psychic openness by going into other worlds with plant medicines. And I do think had I have done it like a few years ago when I still had more unprocessed trauma in my physical embodiment, it might have been too much for me. And even still, when I think about doing more journeying, even after this experience, sometimes there's a part of me that feels a bit of fear around that level of openness that I have. But I also am aware that we have all come here to be who we are meant to be, and wherever our intuition and all of that is who you are. So I'm willing to keep journeying. So my ayahuasca experience was very life-changing. I felt completely rebirthed by this experience, and I look and feel very different to me and sometimes to other people who have been around me since then. When I initially went into the ceremony, some of the intention energy I had behind it was freedom. To me, it was freedom with just the feeling of freedom. It was feeling in relationship to wealth and soul wealth. It was freedom in relationship to not feeling stuck in certain areas in my life, decisions I needed to make, things like this, where I was feeling stuck with fear coming up. And I knew that was making me unfree, and I was really kind of sick of the way that I was holding myself back, but I felt very challenged by it all. And what the medicine did for me was really take me on an accelerated journey of healing of what I was already on and what I would have naturally gone through anyway. A lot of the things that happened within the journey are things that I intuitively, as someone who works very closely with my spirit guides, and that's how I journey through life. I already knew a lot of the things that came into the conversation in my journey. I knew a lot of those messages and lessons, but the journey allowed me to go through them without resistance, without the massive battle that I was having with myself of going to this next level of freedom and ultimately just healing within myself. And so I'm really, really grateful to these plant medicines. They're exceptional beings, and we are so blessed to have them in our experience. And I think the most important thing is having an understanding and reverence of that, firstly, if you are to go forwards into that kind of experience. You don't want to do it from a unintentional place. You want to be very aware. As I say, I think even myself, with all the skill and spiritual authority I have, a few years ago, I don't know that I would have been ready for such an incredible experience. Again, everybody's different, but this was a very rich experience. So, yeah, my intentions were freedom and all of this, and I was a bit anxious about how it was going to feel, and like, if, like, am I going to get sick? Is that going to be like horrific because you're like, feeling kind of trippy and feeling nauseated? That didn't sound very fun to me. But I've been reassured by lots of people around me who've done it before that this kind of, like, if you do purge, it's a good kind of purging. And I would agree with that. I actually didn't purge in my journey. My body was thinking about it, and I asked my spirit guides to please help me not do that, because I was like, I really don't want to. I was feeling quite faint at certain points, not dangerously, but a bit very weird, and so I didn't want to. I was like, please, I don't really want to like throw up now. And at that time, the spirit beings that were with me said, okay, we'll do this in a different way with you, and they went forwards into a different kind of cleansing with me. So I had those intentions. I went to a very beautiful and safe container with experienced facilitators. And there was a lot of good energy in that space, a lot of love energy and lightness. And I think that that's perhaps that contributed to my experience as well. I see there's so many different ways to do plant medicines and things. That's something I've noted in documentaries and things I've watched, is just like the environment can be very different. I've seen some environments that are like quite sort of dark, and we're being fearful of demonic entities and protecting the space, which is good, but not necessarily from fear. And like, doing exorcisms, and just my experience was, we know what the container was, we know that we're love, and we know that we're light, and we know that we're safe. And that was infused through the whole time, the many hours of the ceremony. And I think that added to the beauty of all of it. So when I first took the medicine, I thought, oh, it doesn't taste that bad. And then my belly started to feel a bit like yucky, but I was just like, okay. And then at one point I was starting to feel a bit faint, but I'm a person who has a blood pressure sensitivity anyway, and the facilitators were aware of this, and this was very well taken care of. I didn't actually faint. It's just a different experience for your body anyway. So I was laying on my back with my legs up against the wall, which is the recovery position for that. And I was waiting for like the trip to happen or something to happen. And there was this photo of like a painting, of a kookaburra. And I realized that he was like looking at me and I was looking at him. And then I felt a bit funny. And then I was like, yeah, I think it's starting to affect me now, because these are very weird thoughts to be having. And then right when the facilitator was offering if you chose a second cup, and I was deliberating about that in my mind, I was gone into like another world. I will say, actually, initially, one of the first things I noticed was the funniness of my thoughts. They started to become a bit deeper, a bit sort of humorous to me. And I also noticed that my spirit guide, who I'm very used to being around me, and being a psychic, I have an awareness of their presence, but I felt her like really more strongly, and I felt the sense of presence with her strongly, and she sort of knelt next to me, and I felt her and heard her say some things, and she started giving me it was just insights around freedom, and it was things like, she was telling me that I needed to learn how to breathe and how to practice breathing, and that would help me, and that, freedom is a choice. And she was talking about how you can do this action, or you can make this action, you can do this decision or this decision, and it does not matter, because you are going to go into that decision and live a spiral of your life from the outcome of that, and then continue on in the spiral, everything is a spiral, and it's a bit challenging to explain, but it really landed with me when she said that sort of thing. Also, I was talking to the kookaburra about something, or I felt like I was talking to him, and we had a connection, even though it was just a painting. I'm sure it was the energy and consciousness of kookaburra. Yeah, and then we were invited to take a second cup, and then I was thinking about should I, shouldn't I, and then I just all the visuals started, and I had my eyes closed and an eye mask on, and earplugs optionally, and I saw the most beautiful visions. Like, the colors were incredible. When I was closing my eyes, I was seeing visions of rainbow parrots, hot pink parrots, particularly hot pink, as well. Multicolored and pink butterflies, and like hot pink and multicolored frogs as well, and snakes as well. And they were kind of like, if you've ever seen a magic eye, it's this thing that, I don't know, they had here in Australia when I was younger in the newspaper or whatever, and it'd be like this funny kaleidoscopic image, and you're supposed to like hold it really close and then zoom out, and then it would be like an image or something like this. It's very kaleidoscopic, and that's what was happening. Like, it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of parrots and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of frogs, all multicolored, just like this. And I was, amongst other things, I was like, wow. And I probably sounded and looked really funny. But it was a really beautiful, I was in awe of the beauty, and like really happy to see these beautiful frogs and beings and everything. And I felt so then what happened was, I'll summarize this, is that I basically was given I would describe it as a treatment from my spirit guides and some other beings and the medicine. Like if you went and got an energy healing, that's sort of what it felt like, but obviously my own version of it, and they were doing sort of different things. But so one of the first things that happened for me really richly, the whole time I'm seeing these colors and stuff like that really didn't stop the whole time. But I was also aware of my primary female spirit guide and my primary male spirit guide, who I'm very familiar with. After this initiation point where I was fully taken in, I felt and saw them as if they were in the same room. And I felt such an incredible richness of presence with them, and I felt their touch on my body. And what they were doing at times was sort of picking up this leg or this arm, or rocking my hips, or doing something like that, and my body was moving in alignment with those stretches and movements. But it was my spirit guides picking up my leg and moving it. I wasn't intentionally or in any way consciously doing that. And I could feel their energy and almost sort of like their hands on my body when they were doing that as well. And I could see and feel them and hear them so clearly. And they looked and felt and were exactly who I've always experienced as just a psychic perception. And that was so comforting to me. And I started crying out of like having really big emotions out of being, and even now when I talk about it, out of being reunited, felt like being reunited with my soul family and these beings who are always with me, and I'm always talking to them, but there's a different layering of separation that happens when I'm just in the 3D, even if you're the world's best psychic, if you're in a body, if you're really like, you're in your body, but you're being psychic, it's going to be different than if you're on an ayahuasca journey. And you're dimensionally traveling even, and have a lot of dimethyltryptamine opening you up. And so I cried so much as feeling so connected to them, and I felt connected and not disconnected in any way or separated in any way. And I was so grateful, and I could feel their kindness and their love and the way they've always been who they've been to me. And even now, like, I'm so grateful to them for just being who they say they are in my perceptions and who they are. and also knowing that they are higher aspects of me, as are all of our spirit guides. And yeah, it was amazing. So they were in charge, and I was I was like obviously very sort of whoa and like experience in the experience and present, but I did have a part of myself that I was capable of having an awareness of, okay, what are we doing now? Or asking my guides a question, or asking the medicine a question, or having my insights, like being able to hear and take in when my guide said something wise about freedom. There was a part of me that's listening to this and taking this in. Like I wasn't like just completely messed up in my mind. And my spirit guides they were lifting my limbs, as I said. And at one point, my male spirit guide came behind my right side, behind my head and shoulder, and my arm had been down, I think, and he picked it up. And when I opened like this, it opened up my whole heart and chest area. And immediately when it got to like here, like all this energy and emotions just instantly started coming out of me. And they came out of me energetically, but they're also coming out through my voice box, and tears just started. And I was just in this really rich presence with these emotions as they were passing through me, of a deep sorrow and really old wails. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize, I know this because of the experiences I've had with being dissociative in the past, and having severe trauma in the past. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when you suppress, when you go through trauma and you get traumatized and you get a bit disconnected from that until you process it, your body physically literally remembers, and your body physically may make the sounds of like that 5-year-old child that you were. When it finally comes up to be healed, your voice might change. Like different things can happen like this, just like, body memories can play out where the arm that was broken will, feel that pain and flail around until the process is complete. And so my voice changed a bit, and I just share that because it signifies, the depth of and the impact of this. So my 5-year-old self, or whomever, was able to let out those wails, and the trapped sound in the voice box that's been there for, 20 however many years, is able to finally come out. I don't know if we know that this gets locked in your cells waiting to come out. So it was coming out, and I was feeling it, and I was crying, and it was sad, and I was feeling all the sadness of and I could feel and hear sort of my own thoughts and little parts of me experiencing this, and feeling how much I wanted there was a lot of grief. Like I wanted my mum to love me, and she didn't love me, and she didn't protect me. And the sadness around that, and the sorrow and the longing that I had held for that as a child. And at the same time, as that was happening, and it was really sad and I could really feel it, I also felt like no resistance to it. There was no like, this is bad or anything. I was just so pure in that experience. Can you imagine like feeling or crying about something, but there's no part of you saying this is bad or wrong? There's no part of you saying like, I can't handle this, or some other resistance. There's no part of you going heaps deep into stories and stuff. You're just experiencing it. And while I was experiencing it, I was listening to those old thoughts of pain. I was bringing in this awareness part of myself and saying like, like, I love you, and just being with her and being like, it's okay that you didn't feel loved, that's okay, I love you, in a really just pure, rich way, because I was so freed by the medicine coming into me and allowing me to access these wiser, purer parts of myself. And so I was crying, and it came out, and I'm crying and crying and crying. And then it's kind of, the crying subsided a bit, and then it started to change into just feeling a really beautiful openness and lightness. And it felt very different. I felt very different in this part of my body. I felt very strange, but it was just a spaciousness of energy really that I hadn't experienced before. And then very quickly after that, my spirit guide, my female on my left, she said, okay, I'm going to do the left side now. And she said, I'm going to do the left side now. Are you ready? And I took a minute because I had the intuition and I just knew that when she did this side, it would make me feel very strange and vulnerable. I knew that there was something very vulnerable about it. So I took a minute to find the yes in me, which is a practice that I do when my spirit guides already. So this is the thing, is that this is alchemy, this moving and releasing emotions and letting them out and being present. This is what I teach in the pathways of remembrance that I offer in mentorship and in classes and things like that. But it's like a accelerated and without the human mind so much pathway to do it with medicine. So I knew what was coming, and then I found the yes, and I said, okay. And then she lifted up my left arm, and again, when it got about here and it got opened, I felt like this incredible beauty and openness and lightness and freedom. And it was just this, like, it just became me. And like, I almost wasn't thinking anymore because I was just feeling. And I felt this sort of like vulnerable feeling, like even now when I do it, this is the thing, the medicine has still been alive in me and the integration of it, because it changed me. And it feels like a very more vulnerable, almost pleasurable, but not really like a sexual turn on feeling, but just pleasure itself kind of state. And it allowed me to be more present. So when that happened, I felt my heart open. I felt my presence land more fully in me. Immediately, colors, obviously the whole time behind my eyes, but also when I briefly opened my eyes, and I was lying down, so where I was, there was a beautiful lily flower, and it was like a rich pink color, which is a very feminine color to me. And I started crying from the overwhelming beauty of that flower, and it was almost like too much. Like, it's almost like too, I couldn't take it. I did, but I could almost not take in how beautiful it was. And I was just crying and crying in good tears now for the release of this and the way that I felt free. And I was having the message of, from my spirit guides, and then landing in myself as well as just feeling this incredible beauty, that like I am beautiful and that I should be way more gentle to myself. And I was like stroking my own hair, and I was like, I love you, and crying about how much I loved myself and how much love I am and deserve and all of that, and felt for myself in that moment. And and that it was also, for me, one of the freedom parts of it was just that it was safe to open. That's what they were showing me and gave me. It's safe for me to be free now. It's safe to be free. It's safe to be free. It's safe to stop. It's safe to rest. It's safe to let go. It's safe to just be, which is every sort of energy and thought I needed to be able to feel safe enough to be in this more vulnerable, present, energetically opened part and embodiment of myself. And with that comes richer experiences of pleasure, bliss, and beauty. And at one point, I was just feeling all this and crying so much and then I had the awareness, and it was just like I was heaven. I knew and I felt that in me, I became heaven. I became heaven. And this is something that I also have been teaching as well, is that we are here to embody our version of heaven within ourselves and in this earth. And especially for women, there is a calling to be the embodiment of heaven. And that's what a very healthy, aligned, open feminine woman can be. She is a portal for heaven. but I just felt so much love and beauty and lightness, and I felt it's safe, it's safe. It's finally safe. And there were huge parts of me and my nervous system that were able to physically, tangibly get that finally and just be. Even now, when I talk about it, obviously that can bring on the frequencies of when you speak them. And it's just that feeling is everything that I had needed to be able to let go, to unstick myself from the challenges I was having and to not be afraid anymore and not hold myself back. Because the parts of me that were afraid to make big decisions or to be more powerful or to relax and things like that in life we're sort of reliving a time when it wasn't safe to relax and that I couldn't be big and open and more present, in order to survive. My being got that, and it was such a gift. And so I had that experience, and this whole time pretty much I'm seeing like these incredible colors and animals, and I think that spirit knows that I love animals and all those particular animals. So the birds, the butterflies, clearly freedom symbology, right? Very feminine as well. And the frog as well. The frog is interesting because, and he's continued to come to me. A frog energy is long known, and I could sense, to do with abundance as well. A frog has millions of pores over its skin, like we all do, but very open, and that's how it breathes. So frog was there to teach, to help my system learn how to breathe. And also he's covered in like a dew, his own dew, and that dew is actually the representation of the spiritual substance, of the spiritual essence or soul matter that is within each of us. And long ago, in many earths long ago, when feminine priestesses especially, but also masculine priests, if they got to that point, probably in a slightly different way, when they were initiated enough, they could produce the sacred oils of their soul substance and even channel them, and it would come out and in their pores, and they would be glistening wet. They would be glistening golden dew in the temples. And so these animals were not like, by coincidence, nor was the kookaburra, which I'll come back to. Obviously, he's joy and laughter and that lightness, as well as freedom, being a bird. And yeah, I was just, and then one part of that, when I was in that really open bliss, I was almost like recovering, and then and then the ceremonialists here, they also do singing and play beautiful music at certain points in the ceremony. And the female, she started singing right then, this very light feminine style singing and song. And it was so beautiful, like it almost overwhelmed me again. And I just started crying again. And all the butterflies in pink turned pink and they went crazy in my vision. And I was just like, oh my gosh, everything is beautiful. And that was the message, is that life is beautiful, and this life is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. And freedom also, one of the messages that my spirit guides were showing me then and later in the journey, is that freedom is about being, in some ways, about being neutral in life. So understanding that life is a spiral and everything that happens is meant to happen, and that everything just is. And if you make a good choice or a bad choice, I can choose to be free in that by accepting it and seeing something that's happened that's been hard to accept. I can choose to accept it, and in that way I'm free. Or I can choose not to, and in that way I'm not free or feeling freedom in myself. But you have the freedom to choose your perspective on everything that is simply happening. It just is. Everything is God. Everything just is. Everything is a spiral. So my freedom is in how I choose to look at things and relate to things. And, in the larger sense of developing that sense of trust with life, opening to life, and that can help you to trust even more, and choosing to do that even if you're afraid. So that is one of the main parts of the things that happened. Another part was when after a little while, this other being came along, and I just started to see her, and she was like a Aboriginal elder, and she had bright yellow hair and like bright blonde yellow hair, but she was very old looking and Aboriginal, and she said that her name was grandmother's son, and I suspect that's why her hair was that color. And at one point, I sort of the timeline's a little bit confusing because you're very in another world, but at one point there was some low emotions and I was sort of crying or something, and she sort of came over me and she came in front of me, and for a little second I was a bit scared because I was like, what's going on? This is a bit weird. But she came right up to me, and it was weird because she started, like, I felt like this sucking coming from her mouth, and I was like, is she gonna kiss me or something? But I just trusted, and I realized and I saw that she was sucking out the negative and yucky and toxic stuff in my being that I was dealing with. And when she was doing this suction, and I was like, when she would suck, my body would convulse, and I was like, like, just, I can't show you, but just my solar plexus area was convulsing a lot when she was doing this. And then after a few goes, it would be like the final go, and I'd be like, ugh, and like a big convulse, and then it would come out. And I saw her, I said, where are you taking her? She said, I'm taking it to the ether. And I saw this like black stuff just flowing out of me and into her for a brief second, into the, the mouth. And then she spat it out into the ether, just into like white space. And each time when there was that final convulsing and it was coming out and it was out of me, I felt this incredible like lightness and spaciousness and just let go. It was so easy to let go of that horrible feeling. And in my solar plexus, I had been carrying shame that was making me unfree. Shame is the feelings of yuckiness of like, I'm not worthy, I'm ugly, or I'm bad, la la la, which was one of my intentions, sort of more deeper intentions in that more specific intention was I said to Spirit, I wanted help with any ideas of badness and shame. And that's exactly what I was given. And she did this like 6 times, and I'm like feeling the emotion as it comes up, but then I felt like amazingly light and spacious and free each time it kind of finally came up. And then the other main part of things was when I heard and I felt the plant medicine itself. It said to me, I'm going to work on you now. And I knew that it was ayahuasca. And she asked me to just be and just let her work and let her change me. And I knew intuitively, it wasn't really in words, but I knew intuitively she wanted to come in and change me and rewrite me. And so I found the yes in me. And then as soon as I said yes, everything got really intense. The feelings and the energy I was experiencing, just the experience itself, it got, just the only word I can describe is very intense. And the visions I was seeing, it morphed into like this very big and long, endlessly long and really thick green, but when it moved and shimmered, it was bright neon rainbow, a green snake. And it was coming into me, and it came into my legs, and it came into my like abdomen and my solar plexus and just lots of places. But it was going really slow, and when it was moving, like my vision and the intensity in my body, my felt sensations were like like it was just this very weird feeling, and because I could feel it like moving here, and it was creating like this heaviness of like movement, and so it was like moving slow like a thick snake and a heavy snake. And it was chanting, or she was chanting, I was hearing the word change, 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 change with the movement. And I was just trying to breathe and just saying yes, like, okay. And I was like, oh, I was like, yes, I allow. And then, I even got to say, like, to talk to Mother Ayahuasca, and I said, can you help me with this thing in my head? I do this thing where I'm overthinking a lot, like even now, like, can you please help me free myself from that? And as soon as I asked, almost instantly, I felt and saw the like snake in my head, which was very like spinny and trippy. And this was probably the most intense part where I felt very out of it and I felt very faint, but okay, because I was lying on the ground and everything. And throughout the whole time, I was taking sips of water whenever if I could. And yeah, I felt her rewriting me. I felt change, and wherever she went, I knew that I was being completely changed and rewritten, and that I was saying yes to that. And when you say, I want healing, what you're really saying to spirit and finding within yourself is a willingness to let part of yourself die, to completely let go of whatever you think you should be in control of, and just saying, yes, I will be someone else. I will change. I will believe something different. I will face anything. I will feel anything in order to let you, spirit, change me. When we can have that level of devotional surrender, spirit can come in and it can rewrite you. It is simply your life force energy being activated, the higher stream of you getting, like, instead of resistance, getting a flow of allowing and openness for your life force and kundalini to actually come in you and through the holy fire of your soul's own remembrance, change you. But you have to find a really big yes, because sometimes we say, I want healing, and then we meet with resistance. When we're not like on an ayahuasca medicine journey, we'll be like, oh, I'm trying to be present with this feeling. Oh, but part of me is saying no, or part of me thinks this, or we go off into story, or like, no, I'm afraid to feel this. Like, there's lots of different resistances we can have that's stopping your natural healing mechanism of your higher source light and fire within you to actually just very easily, if you can find that yes, rewrite you and change you. You have to be willing, and you have to find the letting go of the ego and the letting go and death of yourself and old beliefs and just being completely different. And I think that this is where, and a lot of this is where my very practiced over many years skill of doing this kind of alchemical work and trust with spirit, understanding like, oh, this snake wants to come into me to do this, like I'm not afraid. I think that allowed me to navigate this experience and get the most out of it. And as a side note, that's why I almost wonder if it isn't good to do a plant medicine if you have no spiritual experience or self-development experience. You're not gonna fully grasp as much as you could. That being said, people do have amazing experiences at all different levels. So yeah, but just for me, the level of mastery I've cultivated definitely helped me navigate a very colorful, deep, and rich experience. So I was changed by the beautiful mother medicine, and then I felt, she said, as sort of after a little bit, and also this whole time, guys, there's things I'm leaving out because it was very like you're very on dimethyltryptamine, and I was having insights as well a lot of the time. I was having little pauses in the intensity of things. The colors and visions didn't really stop ever. And I was having sort of conversation with parts of myself that had been traumatized. And I was, for example, I was like taken back to a couple of childhood memories and parts, like the part of me that was not letting me let go and feel because she didn't feel safe to rest. And my spirit guides guided me and they said, go to her and take her to the future. And like, so we did this visualization where I like time traveled with this part of me and showed her that like when I sleep now, it's safe. It's okay. And that allowed me to open more. So I was doing a lot of like inner work at the same time, and it's all just this sort of alchemical dance, which again, this is my natural process that I do with my spirit guides all the time. It just was hugely enriched by this whole thing, and obviously some differences. So there's a lot of these, just so much I was getting out of it, and I'm so blessed, so blessed and so grateful to the medicine and my spirit and myself for having that. And yeah, after the snake, There are a few other things that I'm going to keep personally to myself, and I'll maybe share with you at another time because it will make more sense then. And it's, yeah, cool. But she said to me, I heard ayahuasca and the snake, and she said, I'm going to leave you now. Okay, I'm going to leave you now. And as soon as I heard that, as soon as she said that, I started to sort of very quickly incline down into being more and more sober and being more and more like here and now and stuff like that. And there was a part of me that was like, no, like don't go, like let's keep doing magic. But I felt like myself trying to reach out and trying to continue spirit conversation while that was all sort of lessening and fading a little bit. And I was able to do a bit more, but at the same time, I was aware that I was, I need to respect like the will of the plant and my spirit guides. So I was reluctantly like, okay. But I was still, obviously, you're still like affected for a little bit. So I was just lying there and just saying wow to myself and like sort of still talking to my spirit guides a bit. And I was able to start taking some notes as well. It's very surprisingly legible. I didn't feel very legible when I was doing it. And yeah, it just sort of started to wash away, and the intensity at which I could hear and feel my spirit guides started to lessen. It all just started to lessen. The room and like the facilitators were starting to like, say, okay, welcome back, everybody. Um, um, and yeah, then there was some more ceremonial things. Um, and then eventually people were invited to start moving around and get up and all that. I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody after that experience. I was still affected even when I got up, which I did very carefully and after a lot of hydration. When I went and we were invited just to be and ground or talk if you wanted to, like whatever after. I sort of just I really didn't want to talk to anybody. I kind of really wanted to be in my own space. Someone tried to talk to me and I was just like and just kept walking, and I went outside and I went towards the earth, and I saw a kookaburra in the tree outside, and I was looking at him and I felt like I felt a very like clear like that we were connecting, and I felt like we were talking to each other. And I can't quite remember what he was saying or what I was saying, but we had this like little conversation and connection. And then I started going a bit further out towards the earth, and then he flew away. And then I was just walking on the earth and trying to ground, and I was thinking a lot about what my spirit guides had said to me, and I was like walking on like these pricklies, like there was some pricklies ahead, and I was like, I could go on the pricklies or I could not go on the pricklies and get stung. It'll hurt or it won't hurt. Like it doesn't matter. And then I like put that into practice and I walked on them and I was like, okay, ow, like okay, this just is, and this is okay. And I was just, in love with everything. And after some time of walking around on the earth in my own space, I think eventually I went up to the main area where food was being served, and I still didn't really talk to anybody, but I sort of sat there and just ate my food quietly. And then eventually later someone asked me more directly, like, how's your experience? And I said it was just amazing. And I couldn't articulate it for a while. By the time of the sharing circle, I was able to articulate it and also look at my notes. But yeah. And what I want to say about the kookaburra is even into like I think the next day's night, my vision, my psychic vision in general, my inner mind vision was still very active and very potent and very clear. And when I closed my eyes as I was starting to fall asleep, I saw my old childhood house, and I saw and sort of relived, but sort of was just seeing, but was sort of there. When I would stand near the back door and I would look out at the trees around like 6 a.m. when I was first getting up for school or whatever, and the golden light around the trees, and how in the trees down out the back of my house, all there was filled with kookaburras, just like a million kookaburras, and they were so loud, just laughing their kookaburra laugh. But I felt in this vision like I was connected to that kookaburra that I had seen at the ceremonial place. And I felt like he was there in this vision somehow, and that he was checking on me. And I felt like that kookaburra that I saw at that ceremonial place was this one of the same kookaburras at my house. And I had an awareness that one or more of the kookaburras at my house were often looking at me or thinking about me when I was looking at them. And they were checking on me, and sort of, I felt like an energy of concern and watchfulness from them, and an invitation to be blessed by and remember my joy one day, as they looked at me from seeing, that I was this little girl growing up in a very traumatic situation. But they were kind of like almost praying for me energetically. And so that kookaburra at the ceremonial place, he was one of the same kookaburras that saw me at that home. And he knew, and I knew, that I had opened myself to joy, and I had grown into the woman and safe person and safe place. And he knew that I was safe, and he was checking on me. And it was this very like profound, full circle vision and felt experience. And that might sound like a bit wild, but I just know that I just know it was the same. And we are in the same state. It was not that far from where I grew up. And I felt so loved by the kookaburras, and I felt just so like, and now like I'm just, how beautiful that these animals might be looking over you when you're a child and you're sad and wondering about you until you're an adult. And then he could fly away when he knew that I was okay and joyful and opened again. And the other thing about that kookaburra at the ceremonial place, when I was looking at it after the ceremony, was a friend that I was at, who was with me at the ceremony. He had said that he was like in a further area in the nature grounding himself, and he said that he asked the kookaburra, he said, can you please go and check on her, because he was a bit worried about me, because when he first saw me come out of it, I just shook his head, and I was like, my head, and I couldn't speak and everything. But he had told that kookaburra to come check on me, and then that kookaburra did. And then that's what I felt coming from the tree. And then when he knew I was okay, he left. But he was also the kookaburra from my childhood home. And it was just so beautiful. And it was like this full circle thing of like, my joy has become fully lived within me. And yeah. And so that, I would conclude, is my ayahuasca experience. Well, later in the night, I was still affected. I was just quite high and like silly, but happy and everything. And then into the next day and the next day as well, I was so open, and pleasure felt amazing. I was eating this brownie, and I was just like, from like, not sexual pleasure, but just like the beauty and the richness and the deliciousness of life. I went swimming, and the water on my skin felt amazing. And what all of this was an adjustment for my system opening into a new level of freedom energetically, of being more open, of being more present. And ever since that ceremony, I have retained that feeling. It's not like crazy anymore, like I was like high, but I am different now. I feel the lightness. I feel the freedom. I feel a deeper quality of richness. When I am present and I fully get present to the moment, colors are brighter, things taste better. I am just more in love with myself and life. And after that ceremony, I went and I, did the things that I'd been holding back from, and I gave myself way more freedom. And I understood that the message of the ceremony, one of the big messages for me, was that it was safe to live from my pleasure now. It's safe to live from freedom now, and I am really free. And if I am really free, how do I want to live? And that's the practicality of the integration that I have been living since then. And that is how I've been changed, because you don't stay in those high emotional states. You have to take what you have been initiated into and apply it into your life and practice embodying it. I have been able to maybe even do a bit more with it because of my psychic capacity. I don't know, maybe other people do as well. But I've been able to, I was shown a different practice by the snake medicine, came back to me briefly in a meditation. It was less intense, but it did. And I did some stuff with that because, again, these are energies at their core. And if you have the permission of the plant and the connection, you've been exposed to that frequency, the idea is that you can regenerate it within yourself with practice and respect and reverence, and only if that's in alignment for you and the plant and everything. And I've been shown practices of moving life force energy better in my body, of being more open in my heart, lots of different things. And basically for me, I felt initiated into a part of myself that I had been a bit more disconnected from, which I would describe as my light feminine. And if we would describe light feminine as the inner child innocence of a little girl, the playfulness, the lightness, and the softness, the surrender, the beauty, the beautiful love, the beautiful pleasure, and yeah, the light, just the lightness and the freedom and playfulness of what it is to be a feminine embodiment that feels free and that she's safe. That I live from trust and I live from safety. And when I feel safe and a woman feels safe or a little girl feels safe, we are playful and we are richly, deeply loving to ourselves and others, and also energies of acceptance and forgiveness. There was some stuff about forgiveness in my journey as well for myself and others. And a level of unconditional love that the feminine particularly holds in a particular way, and then is particularly expressed in the light feminine versus the dark feminine. And you can see that now, I've integrated to the point where I'm happy to wear pink again, like light pink again, and like different things like that. And I have built a course called Bliss for women who want to be initiated into the light feminine pathway. This is currently on pre-sale. If you want to know more about that, please message me on Instagram at the Becc Sahasrara. I'll have links and stuff below. You can also just join the newsletter and you will be kept up to date about pre-sale discounts and early bird prices and bonuses and stuff like that as well. And yeah, I am looking for women who want to come into your light and feel like maybe you felt like you're stuck. Maybe you felt like you've been wanting to really open and love yourself and love life and feel free and acceptance and surrender in life, but it's been hard. And if that's you, this is the course for you. This is the opportunity for you to live from bliss and pleasure and light, and in that way be abundant, be blissful, be loving to yourself, and change your life. So that's one of the things that has happened in my life recently, you guys. For now, I really wanted to share that with you. And may it serve this world. May it serve you. May it serve the women. May you remember who you are. If you would like to continue listening to my voice and receiving content and things like that, you can keep going on this channel by hitting subscribe. Really appreciate that. You can also like this video. Any engagement helps these videos grow. Join the newsletter, which is the most direct, most personal way of interacting with me. There's a fortnightly newsletter with specials and deeper insights like the ones you're having now, but even more. I do have Instagram and TikTok, which is at the Becc Sahasrara. And there was something else as well. My website, becsahasrara.com. Yeah. I am really happy to be here with you. If you are interested in courses or one-on-one mentorship, I also have a new mentorship coming out for women who want to go to that next level and live an extraordinary life from your feminine potency, so that you can have easeful wealth, you can have easeful pleasure-based lifestyle and feel deeply peaceful and self-love within your life. I am looking for only 3 extraordinary women for that. There's already 1 or 2 considering it, so do reach out for that. You can DM me as soon as possible. Private spots are very limited with me because I like to devote my entire attention to you. So thank you for being here, and I am sending you so much love, and I'll see you in the next video.